The courtroom smelled like old wood and desperation. 9:47 a.m. Tuesday. Family court, downtown. Judge Morrison's chambers, where Marcus Thorne stood in his Tom Ford suit, presenting documents that would strip me of everything. Your Honor, these bank statements prove my wife has been hiding assets throughout our marriage. Marcus's voice carried that smooth confidence he used in negotiations. She's been funneling money into offshore accounts, forging my signature, committing fraud. I sat at the defendant's table in a Gap dress I'd owned for 6 years. My hands rested on a leather portfolio, cracked at the corners, worn soft. Inside were papers I'd been collecting for 7 years. Papers Marcus didn't know existed. But let me take you back to the moment I realized I'd married a stranger. 3 months earlier, the envelope arrived on a Thursday. 4:23 p.m. Hand-delivered to our Beacon Hill townhouse by a courier in a cheap suit who wouldn't meet my eyes. Whitmore and Associates. Attorneys at law. Inside, divorce papers. A list of my alleged crimes. Bank statements I'd never seen. Account numbers I didn't recognize. My signature on documents I'd never touched. The forgeries were good. Excellent, even. The capital E in Elena had my distinctive loop. The way I crossed my TS, slightly diagonal, was perfect. Someone had studied my handwriting, practiced it, weaponized it. I sat on our kitchen floor, imported Italian tile, cold against my legs, and laughed until I cried. Because Marcus had made one critical mistake. He didn't know about the safety deposit box. I'd opened it 7 years ago, 3 months after our wedding. Box 237 at First National Bank, registered under my maiden name, Elena Vasquez. The banker who'd helped me, Mrs. Chun, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, had asked one question. Trouble already? Insurance, I'd said. She'd nodded. Smart girl. Every month after that, I'd made copies. Bank statements, property deeds, investment accounts, Marcus's emails, the ones he thought he'd deleted, photos of documents he'd left in his briefcase, recordings of conversations I'd had with his business partners. Not because I was paranoid, because I'd grown up watching my mother lose everything to a man who'd forged her name on papers that sold her family's restaurant for pennies. She'd died broken, unable to prove the signature wasn't hers. I'd sworn I'd never be her. So I'd documented everything. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of evidence. Originals of every document Marcus thought he'd hidden or altered, including the real bank statements. The ones that proved every account was legitimate, every signature genuine, every transaction legal. And the documents that proved Marcus had been embezzling from his own company, using my name, my accounts, my reputation as cover. The first time I'd noticed discrepancies was year 2. Small things. A transfer of $15,000 from our joint account to somewhere unknown. When I'd asked, Marcus had smiled. Investment opportunity, darling. Trust me. I'd smiled back. Of course. Then I'd gone to the bank, requested statements, made copies. Year 3, larger amounts. 50,000. 75. Always with my signature. Real signatures, ones I'd actually made, but on documents that had been altered after I'd signed them. He'd have me sign contract renewals for our house insurance, our car payments. Standard stuff. Then he'd scan them, digitally remove everything but the signature, and transplant it onto other documents. I discovered this by accident. Found a page in the recycling, a test print where the signature didn't quite line up. The edges were pixelated. I'd taken it to a document examiner. Paid cash. Used a fake name. Digital forgery, she'd said. Common in financial fraud. Your signature's real, but everything around it was added after. Can you prove it? With the originals? Absolutely. Paper analysis, ink aging, pressure patterns. A real signature shows indentation. A printed one doesn't. I kept every original. After that, every single piece of paper I'd ever signed. When Marcus brought Jessica home, his new business consultant, I wasn't surprised. 26. Stanford MBA. Legs that went for miles and morals that didn't go anywhere. Elena, Jessica will be helping with the company transition. Marcus set his briefcase on the counter. She'll need access to our home office. Our home office, where I'd been keeping decoy files. Fake documents that would lead him exactly where I wanted him to go. Of course. I'd smiled at Jessica. Can I get you anything? Coffee. Water. She'd looked at me like I was furniture. Water's fine. Sparkling, if you have it. I'd served her Perrier and Waterford Crystal and watched her examine our home with calculating eyes. That night, I'd moved everything real to the safety deposit box, left the fakes in the filing cabinet. 3 weeks later, Marcus filed for divorce. Now, in Judge Morrison's chambers, Marcus's lawyer, Daniel Whitmore, silver-haired and expensive, spread papers across the desk. As you can see, Your Honor, Mrs. Thorne has been systematically defrauding my client. These accounts, he pointed, were opened without his knowledge. These transfers, made without his consent, all bearing his forged signature. Judge Morrison, a woman in her 60s with eyes like a hawk, examined the documents. Mrs. Thorne, do you have representation? I stood. I'm representing myself, Your Honor. Marcus's laugh was sharp. Of course she is. Can't afford a lawyer with all the money she's hidden. Mr. Thorne, the judge's voice cut like ice. You'll speak when spoken to. She turned to me. Do you have a response to these allegations? I opened my portfolio. Inside, 7 years of originals. 7 years of truth. Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to present evidence that every document Mr. Whitmore just showed you is a forgery. The room went silent. Furthermore, I have evidence that Mr. Thorne has been using my identity to embezzle from Thorne Technologies, the company he claims to own but actually belongs to his investors, who have no idea their CEO has been stealing from them. Marcus's face went white. That's a lie. I have the originals, Your Honor. I met her eyes. Every single one. Judge Morrison leaned forward. Originals of what, specifically? Everything. I pulled out the first folder. Bank statements Mr. Thorne claims I forged. Property deeds. Investment accounts. And documents proving systematic embezzlement from Thorne Technologies over the past 5 years. Daniel Whitmore stood. Your Honor, this is absurd. My client has provided clear evidence. Your client has provided forgeries. I placed the first set of papers on her desk. These are the original bank statements from Coastal Federal. Note the date stamps, the paper stock, the original ink signatures. The documents Mr. Whitmore presented are photocopies with digitally altered signatures. I practiced this moment in my bathroom mirror for 3 months. Voice steady, hands calm. No emotion, just facts. Judge Morrison took the papers, examined them against Marcus's copies. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. Mrs. Thorne, where did you obtain these? I've been keeping originals of every financial document for 7 years, Your Honor, in a safety deposit box registered under my maiden name. I pulled out another folder. This account here, the one Mr. Thorne claims I opened secretly? I opened it with his full knowledge in 2019. Here's the original application. Both are signatures, witnessed by the bank manager. I laid it down. The paper was slightly yellowed, the ink aged naturally. Next to Marcus's pristine photocopy, the difference was obvious. And this account. The judge pointed to another statement. Also legitimate. Opened jointly in 2020 for our future children's education fund. I placed the original. Mr. Thorne's signature is genuine. Mine is genuine. The account currently holds $127,000, all from documented sources. My salary from my consulting work and matched contributions from Mr. Thorne's legitimate income. She's lying. Marcus surged to his feet. Those documents are sit down. Judge Morrison's voice cracked like a whip. Mr. Whitmore, control your client. Marcus sat. His hands were shaking. I continued. The documents Mr. Thorne presented show this account holding $600,000. That's false. Here's this month's statement, original, from the bank. $127,000. The altered version was created to make it appear I'd been hiding assets. Judge Morrison was making notes now. Her pen scratched across legal pad paper. Your Honor, Daniel Whitmore said, even if some discrepancies exist, that doesn't prove I'm not finished. I placed another folder on the desk. These documents show transfers from Thorne Technologies to accounts in the Cayman Islands. The signatures appear to be mine. They're not. They're digital forgeries. My real signature, scanned and transplanted onto fraudulent transfer authorizations. I pulled out a magnifying glass, handed it to the judge. If you examine the signature pressure points, you'll see no indentation. These were printed, not signed. She looked. The silence stretched for 30 seconds. 40. Continue. I have the papers Mr. Thorne had me sign, the ones he used to create these forgeries. Home insurance renewals. car payment updates, standard documents. Here's the original insurance renewal from 2021. I laid it down. Note the signature indentation. Now compare it to this transfer authorization that supposedly has my signature. No indentation, because it's a digital copy printed onto fraudulent documents. Marcus's lawyer was sweating now. Your Honor, this is highly technical. I'm a district court judge, Mr. Whitmore. I understand document analysis. She looked at me. You mentioned embezzlement. This was it. The moment I'd been building toward. Yes, Your Honor. For 5 years, Mr. Thorne has been transferring money from Thorne Technologies, a company he doesn't actually own, but manages on behalf of venture capital investors, into personal accounts. He's been using my identity as cover, making it appear that I was the one making unauthorized transfers. I laid out the evidence. Emails between Marcus and offshore account managers. Transfer receipts. Communications with shell corporations. All of it obtained legally, from his briefcase, his laptop, his own careless paper trail. The total amount embezzled is approximately $3.2 million. The investors have no knowledge of this. They believe company funds are being used for legitimate operational expenses. These are lies. Marcus's voice was desperate now. She's fabricating. Mr. Thorne, one more outburst, and I'll hold you in contempt. Judge Morrison turned to me. How did you obtain these communications? My husband keeps files in our home office. As his wife, I had access to shared spaces in our marital home. I made copies of documents I found concerning. I also recorded conversations in common areas of our home, legal in this state with single-party consent. I pulled out a small recording device. I have 70 hours of recordings, including conversations where Mr. Thorne discusses using my name and identity to cover his tracks. Would you like to hear them? The judge nodded. I pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the chamber. Elena's perfect cover. She's so quiet, so trusting. If anyone ever investigates, they'll think she was in on it. She signs whatever I put in front of her without reading it. Another voice, Jessica's. What if she figures it out? Marcus, laughing. She won't. She's too busy being the perfect little wife. By the time anyone notices, I'll have everything offshore and we'll be in Monaco. Jessica, and the divorce? Marcus, I've already created the documents. Made it look like she's been hiding assets, forging my signatures. My lawyer will destroy her. She'll be lucky to walk away with anything. I stopped the recording. The silence was deafening. Judge Morrison's face was stone. Mr. Thorne, do you deny this is your voice? Marcus opened his mouth. Closed it. I can explain. I'm sure you can. You'll have the opportunity, in criminal court. She turned to Daniel Whitmore. Mr. Whitmore, did you know these documents were forged? Your Honor, my client provided them. I assumed. You assumed. Her voice was ice. You'll be hearing from the Bar Association. She looked at me. Mrs. Thorne, I'm denying the divorce petition. Furthermore, I'm ordering an immediate freeze on all of Mr. Thorne's accounts and assets pending criminal investigation. I'm also ordering him to surrender his passport. Your Honor, please. Marcus stood. I'm not finished. You're ordered to vacate the marital home within 24 hours. All keys, all access codes. You're prohibited from contact with Mrs. Thorne except through her attorney. And Mrs. Thorne, I suggest you get one now. She gathered the papers. This hearing is adjourned. Bailiff, please contact the district attorney's office. I'm referring this case for immediate investigation of fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft. Marcus turned to me, his face a mask of shock and rage. How did you? I closed my portfolio. You thought I was stupid. That was your mistake. The DA's office moved fast. By Friday, Marcus was arrested. The charges, wire fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, and forgery. Combined potential sentence, 25 years. I watched from my lawyer's office. I'd hired Catherine Ross, the best criminal defense attorney in the state, as they let him out in handcuffs. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. Jessica tried to run. Made it as far as Logan Airport before federal agents picked her up. Conspiracy to commit fraud. She'd been transferring money to her own accounts, thinking she was clever. She wasn't. How long have you been planning this? Catherine asked me. We sat in her corner office, windows overlooking the harbor. 7 years. Since the day I married him. I sipped coffee from a paper cup. Still couldn't bring myself to spend money on expensive things. My mother died penniless because she couldn't prove her husband had forged her signature. I swore I'd never be that vulnerable. Catherine smiled. You weren't just protecting yourself. You were building a case. I was building insurance. I didn't want to use it. I hoped I'd never need it. I set down the cup. But when he filed for divorce using forged documents, when he tried to paint me as a criminal, I couldn't let him destroy another woman the way my mother was destroyed. The trial took 3 months. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus's lawyer, he'd had to get a public defender after his accounts were frozen, tried to argue entrapment, illegal recording, violation of privacy. None of it stuck. I'd been careful. Every document obtained legally. Every recording made in shared spaces with single-party consent. Every copy made from papers in our shared home office. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Morrison presided. Mr. Thorne, you violated your wife's trust, your investors' trust in the law. You attempted to destroy an innocent woman's reputation and financial security to cover your own crimes. You weaponized the legal system and your position of power. She looked at him over her glasses. I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison, followed by 10 years probation. You're ordered to pay full restitution to Thorne Technologies investors, $3.2 million plus interest. You're also ordered to pay Mrs. Thorne's legal fees and damages for emotional distress. Marcus didn't look at me. Not once. Jessica got 5 years. She'd cooperated, testified against Marcus in exchange for a reduced sentence. I felt nothing watching her led away. Just emptiness where anger should have been. After the sentencing, I drove to First National Bank. Mrs. Chun was still there, older now, but still sharp-eyed. Mrs. Thorne, she said. I saw the news. I'm sorry for what you went through. Don't be. I handed her the key to box 237. I'm here to close this. Closing it. I don't need it anymore. I smiled. The threat's gone, and I'm done living in fear. She processed the closure. As I was leaving, she called out, Mrs. Thorne? Elena. I turned. What you did. Keeping those records, protecting yourself, your mother would be proud. My eyes burned. Thank you. The townhouse sold for $2.4 million. I kept half. Community property laws meant Marcus's share went to his restitution payments, but my half was mine. I bought a small condo in Cambridge. 2 bedrooms, big windows, a kitchen where I could see the sunrise. It cost $400,000. I paid cash. The rest I invested. Set up a foundation in my mother's name, Maria Vasquez Foundation for Women's Legal Defense. We help women document abuse, collect evidence, navigate divorce from dangerous partners. In the first year, we helped 63 women. Taught them about safety deposit boxes, about keeping originals, about recording laws and document preservation. 17 of those women discovered their husbands were committing fraud using their identities. 14 caught abuse early enough to leave safely. All 63 left their marriages with evidence, with resources, with protection. I returned to consulting, built my client list back up, made a reputation for being thorough, careful, detail-oriented. The same traits that had saved my life. 6 months after the trial, Catherine Ross called. Elena, there's someone I'd like you to meet. Another client. She's going through something similar. Forged documents, identity theft, abusive husband. Send her to the foundation. We'll help her. I did. But she asked specifically to meet you. Said your story gave her courage. We met at a coffee shop in Harvard Square. Her name was Rachel. She was 28, a teacher, married to a hedge fund manager who was using her identity to hide money from the SEC. She had a folder. Inside, 3 years of carefully collected documents. I started copying everything after I read about your case, she said. I didn't know if I was being paranoid or smart. Smart, I said. Always smart. I helped her find a lawyer. Reviewed her evidence. Walked her through the process. 8 months later, her husband was arrested. She walked away free, her name cleared, her future intact. She wasn't the last. Word spread. Women started reaching out. The foundation grew. 2 years after the trial, I was teaching a weekend workshop on financial self-protection when I saw him. Daniel. Quiet, kind-eyed, a widower who'd brought his sister to the workshop. She was divorcing a man who'd stolen her family inheritance. We helped her recover everything. Prosecuted her ex for fraud. Got her life back. Afterward, Daniel asked if I'd have coffee with him. We talked for 4 hours. He was a teacher, a reader, a man who believed in kindness without weakness. You're careful, he observed. You watch everything. I have to be. No. He smiled. You choose to be. There's a difference. One is fear. One is wisdom. We dated for a year. Slow, careful. I watched for red flags. Found none. When he proposed, I said yes. But I also said, I'm keeping my own accounts. My own safety deposit box. My own documentation. He laughed. I'd be worried if you didn't. That's who you are. I love who you are. We married in a small ceremony. I kept my name, kept my accounts, kept my independence. But I also kept my heart open, because not every man is Marcus. Not every love is a trap. 5 years after the trial, I visited the prison. Marcus had requested to see me. He looked older, grayer, smaller. Why did you come? He asked. I wanted to see if I still felt anything. Anger, satisfaction, anything. And nothing. You're just a stranger who made bad choices. He nodded. I'm sorry. For what it's worth. It's not worth much. But I forgive you anyway. I stood to leave. Not for you. For me. Because carrying hatred is heavy, and I'm done carrying your weight. I left him there. Walked out into sunshine. Drove home to my husband, my work, my life. The foundation now helps 300 women a year. We've expanded to 4 states. We teach workshops, provide legal support, connect women with document experts and forensic accountants. We've saved marriages worth saving and ended ones that needed to end. We've protected assets, exposed fraud, kept women safe. Every woman who walks through our doors gets the same advice. Document everything. Keep originals. Trust yourself. And know that being careful isn't the same as being afraid. I still have box 237. Different bank now, but same purpose. Inside, my important documents, my will, my records. Not because I don't trust Daniel. Because I trust myself. And that's the real victory. Not that I destroyed Marcus. Not that I won. But that I learned I could protect myself. That I was never as helpless as I looked. That quiet doesn't mean weak, and careful doesn't mean afraid. My mother died unable to prove the truth. I lived because I documented it. That's not revenge. That's power. And I'm never giving it away again.